It was a hot Thursday afternoon in Casablanca, Morocco. I sat in my father's study, looking at the books that covered every wall from floor to ceiling. My name is Amina, and I am 17 years old. My father, Imam Hassan al-Maghribi, is the most respected religious leader in our neighborhood of Ain Chak. Amina, my father said, his voice filled with pride. I have wonderful news for you. I looked up from the Quran I was reading. My father's eyes were shining with joy. I have decided to send you to study Islamic law at Al-Azhar University in Egypt. You will be the first woman in our family to study there. I will pay for everything, your books, your room, your food, everything. My heart jumped with excitement. Al-Azhar was the most famous Islamic school in the world. Only the smartest students got to go there. Really, Baba? I asked, using the name I had called him since I was little. Yes, my daughter. You have memorized the entire Quran. You speak Arabic better than boys twice your age. You will make our family proud. I had been studying Islam my whole life. Every morning at 5 a.m., I would wake up for far prayer. After that, I would study Arabic and Islamic history until breakfast. In the afternoon, I taught younger girls at our local mosque on Rue Muhammad V. My father always told people, Amina is my gift from Allah. She will be a great Islamic scholar one day. I believed him. I loved teaching the little girls about prayer and about being good Muslims. When they asked me questions, I always had the right answers. I felt important and special. But that was before everything changed. It happened on a Friday evening in October 2023. I was teaching a group of 8 girls, all between 9 and 12 years old. We sat in a circle on the soft carpet in the women's section of Al-Noor Mosque. One of the girls, Fatima, was only 10 years old. She had big brown eyes and always asked smart questions. That day, she raised her small hand. Sister Amina, she said quietly, my older brother told me something strange. What did he tell you? I asked. He said that in Islam, a man can marry a girl when she is very young, even when she is 9 years old. Is that true? The room became very quiet. All the other girls looked at me, waiting for my answer. My heart started beating fast. I knew what she was talking about. I had read about it in the books my father gave me. The Prophet Muhammad had married Aisha when she was very young. Well, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. That was different times. Things were different back then. But Fatima wasn't finished. But Sister Amina, if it was okay for the Prophet, why isn't it okay now? My brother says some men still do this in other countries. I felt my hands start to shake. I had never thought about this question before. I had just accepted what I learned without thinking too hard about it. That's a question for the scholars, I said. Let's move on to our lesson about prayer. But I couldn't move on. The question stayed in my mind like a stone in my shoe. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about little Fatima and her question. I got up and went to my father's study. I pulled out the books about the Prophet's life. I read the stories again. This time, they felt different. I thought about girls I knew who were 9 years old. They still played with dolls. They were just children. How could this be right? The next few days were hard for me. Every time I tried to pray, Fatima's question came back to my mind. Every time I read the Quran, I started noticing things that troubled me. I found verses about fighting people who don't believe in Islam. I found verses that said women get less inheritance than men. I found verses about slavery. These things had been there all along, but I had never really thought about them. My teachers had always explained them away, saying we didn't understand the full meaning. But now I couldn't stop thinking. If Islam was perfect, why did these things trouble me so much? I decided to talk to my father. Maybe he could help me understand. One evening after dinner, I knocked on his study door. Baba, can I ask you something? Of course, my daughter. Come sit. I sat in the chair across from his desk. Behind him were hundreds of Islamic books in Arabic. Baba, I have been thinking about some verses in the Quran. Some of them seem hard to understand. My father's face became serious. What verses? Well, like the ones about fighting non-believers. And about women getting less inheritance. And about... I stopped. I was afraid to say it. About what, Amina? About the Prophet marrying Aisha when she was so young. My father's eyes became cold. He was quiet for a long moment. Amina, he said slowly, these are not questions for you to worry about. These are questions for scholars who have studied for many years. You are just a girl. You cannot understand everything. But Baba, I just want to understand. No. His voice was loud now. This is how doubt starts. This is how Satan tricks young people. You will not ask these questions anymore. Do you understand? I felt tears in my eyes. Yes, Baba. Good. Now go to your room and pray. Ask Allah to forgive you for doubting. I went to my room, but I didn't pray. Instead, I sat on my bed and cried. My father had never spoken to me like that before. The next week, something happened that would change my life forever. My father went to Rabat for a religious conference. My mother was visiting her sister. I was alone in the house for the first time. I went to my father's computer in his study. He had always told me never to use it, but I was desperate to find answers to my questions. I turned it on and opened the internet. My hands were shaking as I typed, "Problems with Islam." What I found shocked me. There were websites and videos made by people who used to be Muslims. They talked about the same questions that troubled me. One video was by a woman from Tunisia. She had been a teacher like me. She talked about leaving Islam and how her family contributed in her death. Another was by a man from Pakistan. He had been an imam like my father. He explained why he couldn't believe in Islam anymore. I watched video after video. Some of these people seemed smart and sincere. They weren't angry or hateful. They just wanted truth. I found websites that listed problems in the Quran and Hadith. Things I had never noticed before. Contradictions. Scientific errors. Commands for violence. I stayed up all night reading and watching. By morning, my whole world felt upside down. Everything I had believed my whole life was being questioned. But I also felt something I had never felt before, freedom to think for myself. That night, I had a strange dream. I was walking in a desert, and I was very thirsty. The sun was hot, and I felt like I was going to die. Suddenly, I saw a man walking toward me. He was wearing simple white clothes, and his face was kind. He looked Middle Eastern, like people from our area. "Who are you?" I asked. "I am the one who gives living water," he said. "Drink, and you will never be thirsty again." He handed me a cup of cool water. When I drank it, I felt peace fill my whole body. "What is your name?" I asked. "I am Jesus," he said. "I have been waiting for you to ask." I woke up with tears on my face. In Islam, we believe Jesus was a prophet, but not God's son. But in my dream, he seemed like more than just a prophet. I was confused and scared. Why would I dream about Jesus? Over the next few weeks, I continued my secret research. I learned about the Bible and what Christians believe. I read about Jesus online when my parents weren't home. The more I read, the more questions I had about Islam. But I also started to feel drawn to the person of Jesus. In the Gospels, he seemed so different from what I had learned in the Quran. He was gentle with women. He welcomed children. He taught about love and forgiveness, not war and conquest. I found myself praying to Jesus sometimes, asking him to help me find the truth. One day, I was in my room reading about Christianity on my phone when my younger brother Yusuf walked in without knocking. "What are you reading?" he asked. I quickly closed the web page, but he had already seen it. Were you reading about Christianity? His eyes were wide with shock. Yusuf, please don't tell Baba, I begged. But he was already running down the hall, shouting, Baba! Baba! Amina is reading about Christianity. My heart sank. I knew my life was about to change forever. My father came running up the stairs, his face red with anger. He grabbed my phone and saw the webpage I had been reading. What is this? He shouted. What have you been doing? Baba, I was just trying to understand. He slapped me hard across the face. I had never been hit by my father before. You ungrateful girl. After everything I have given you. After all my plans for your education. This is how you repay me. He took my phone and my laptop. My mother later begged him to format my laptop and give it back to me, but you will not leave this house except for the mosque. You will not speak to your friends. You will pray and ask Allah for forgiveness. But Baba, no. You are no longer going to Al-Azhar. You are no longer my student. You are a disgrace to our family. He stormed out and slammed my door. I sat on my bed and cried for hours. Everything I had worked for was gone. My father's love, his respect, my future education, all gone because I had asked questions. But even through my tears, I knew I couldn't go back to pretending. I had seen too much. I had felt Jesus calling to me. I couldn't ignore that anymore. For the next month, I was like a prisoner in my own home. My father barely spoke to me. My mother brought food to my room but wouldn't look at me. Every day, I had to choose. Would I pretend to believe what I used to believe, or would I follow the truth I was discovering? It was the hardest choice of my life. If I chose Islam, I could have my family back. I could go to Al-Azhar University. I could have the life my father had planned for me. But if I chose to follow Jesus, I might lose everything. I thought about Fatima, the little girl who had asked me that first question. I thought about other young girls who might have the same doubts I had. I thought about truth and how important it was to me. And I thought about Jesus, who had appeared to me in my dream and promised living water. In the end, the choice was clear. I couldn't live a lie anymore. I began planning how I would tell my parents the truth, knowing it would change everything. But I also knew that Jesus would be with me, no matter what happened. The road ahead looked scary and uncertain. But for the first time in months, I felt real peace in my heart. I was ready to follow the truth, wherever it led me. 3 days before my father found out about my secret searches, I had been chatting online with a pastor named Peter from a church in Canada. I had found his email on a website that helped people with questions about Christianity. Pastor Peter was very kind. He never pushed me to make quick decisions. He just answered my questions about Jesus and the Bible. He told me that God loved me no matter what, and that Jesus died to save me from my sins. I knew my time was running out. My father was becoming suspicious. He had started checking on me more often. I felt like soon he would discover what I was doing. So I decided to write everything down. I wanted someone to know my story, just in case something happened to me. I stayed up late that Tuesday night, October 17, 2023, writing my whole story. I wrote about Fatima's question, about my doubts, about my dream of Jesus, about everything. At the end I wrote, Pastor Peter, I don't know what will happen to me. If my father finds out what I believe, he might send me away or hurt me. In some places, girls like me disappear when they choose Jesus over Islam. But I want you to know that I have decided to follow Jesus, even if it costs me everything. Please pray for me. And please tell Christians in your country something important. You are so blessed to live where you can go to church openly. You can read your Bible without hiding. You can sing about Jesus without fear. You can tell others about God's love without going to prison. Many of us around the world cannot do these things. We risk everything just to pray to Jesus in secret. Some of us lose our families, our homes, even our lives. So please, don't waste your freedom. Use it for God's glory. Serve Jesus with everything you have. Remember that while you can serve God with comfort and safety, many of us serve Him with great sacrifice and risk. Let that make your freedom even more precious to you. Don't take it for granted. Use it for God's glory. Your sister who paid a price for Jesus, Amina Al-Maghribi, Casablanca, Morocco.